Engaging citizens. A game changer for development? Strategies for Recruitment and Participation with Tina Nabatchi, Associate Professor of Public Administration and International Affairs, Syracuse University.
In this section, we'll be looking deeper at the role of participation in affecting public policy. The categories of thick and thin are very useful for conceptualizing productive participation, but the tactics used within those categories vary tremendously. 4 strategic questions are useful for understanding some of these variations. First, who should participate and how will participants be recruited? Who participates is a central issue in public participation. To answer this question, participation leaders should examine who is affected by the issue, as well as the stakes involved for those who are affected. In general, the more people affected by an issue, and the more an issue deeply affects people, the more participant recruitment matters. There are 3 primary recruitment strategies which may be used alone or in combination: broadcasting announcements through the media, recruiting participants proactively through networks, and selecting participants by random sample. For all of these approaches, it is important for organizers to put themselves in the shoes of potential participants and think about the incentives that might compel them to engage, as well as the barriers that may stand in their way. Second, how will participants interact with each other and with decision makers? In general, there are 3 interaction or communication modes: one-way, two-way, and deliberative. One-way communication is the unidirectional flow of information between people, and two-way communication is the reciprocal flow of information. These methods of communication are best used for relatively simple, low-stakes issues. However, when issues are more complex and the stakes are higher, deliberative communication is generally better. Deliberative communication is more focused on problem solving. It requires a group of participants to take part in an open and accessible conversation in which they reflect carefully on a matter, weigh the strengths and weaknesses of alternative solutions to a problem, and aim to arrive at a decision or judgment based not only on facts and data, but also on values, emotions, and other less technical considerations. In deliberation, all participants should have an opportunity to speak, listen attentively and consider the contributions of others, and treat each other with respect. Although deliberation can be labor-intensive and time-consuming, it is useful and sometimes essential for high-stakes issues. Third, what information do participants need? Research shows that participant input improves when they are given high-quality information that provides context and history, is neutral and objective, and includes all perspectives. Whether information is needed, as well as what types of materials are appropriate, depends on the complexity of the issue being examined and the stakes involved. For example, simple, low-stakes issues may not require participant preparation. Others may require specific information provided through websites, infographics, newspaper articles, short presentations, or expert or panel discussions. Complex and/or high-stakes issues almost always require informational materials, such as issue guides, online resources, or experts on the issue who can answer technical questions. The 4th and final strategic question is, how will participation impact policy decisions, problem-solving efforts, or other kinds of public action? This is usually the most difficult question to answer, in part because impacts are dependent on the recommendations, ideas, and commitments of the participants. The International Association for Public Participation's Spectrum of Public Participation provides a useful graphic for thinking about how public input will be used. Specifically, this spectrum suggests 5 levels of public input. First, participation can be used to inform the public or provide people with balanced and objective information to assist them in understanding the issue. Second, participation can be used to consult with the public or get feedback on the issue. Third, participation can be used to involve the public or work directly with people throughout the process to ensure that public concerns and aspirations are consistently understood and considered. Fourth, participation can be used to collaborate with the public or partner with them in each aspect of the decision-making process. Finally, participation can be used to empower the public or place final decision-making in their hands. How should participation leaders answer these questions about recruitment, information, interaction, and impact? Well, that depends on the participation scenario they face and the goals they have for engaging the public. There are 6 common participation scenarios. First, participation leaders may want to inform the public. Second, participation leaders may want to gather public input, feedback, and preferences. Third, they may want citizens to generate new ideas or new data. Fourth, participation leaders may want to support volunteerism and citizen-driven problem solving. Fifth, participation leaders may want to make a policy decision. Finally, participation leaders may want to develop a plan or a budget. Faced with these scenarios and frustrated by the inability of conventional meetings and processes to address them, participation leaders have pioneered a wide range of thin and thick participatory tactics. These tactics are roughly organized from thinnest to thickest. They include social media aggregation, surveys and polls, focus groups, online problem reporting platforms, crowdsourcing and contests, crowdfunding and mini-grants, serious games, wiki-based mapping and writing platforms, online networks, collaborative planning processes, participatory budgeting, and public deliberation. Each of these tactics has their own advantages and disadvantages, and some are more applicable in certain scenarios than in others. We'll be looking at some of these participation methods in more detail in later videos and in online resources.